Well, 7th of January, 2024. I got to get used to saying that and writing that.
You
I'm still
write
kind
that?
of stuck. Well, occasionally I have to sign my name and put the date on there,
Oh.
uh, especially if I ever write a check. But yeah, welcome to the first live Sunday Night Live of 2024, guys. And it's been a long day for me. I'm tired. My back's a little sore. Uh, Past 24 hours, I have put in some work. But hadn't got any content out, but I've been busy. I've had the shop tore all to pieces, and so I did capture a little bit of time lapse footage, and we'll play with later when I got time of the table build and kind of the evolution. I took some pictures along the way, but that's what I've been up to. Y'all seen the pictures because I've been sharing pretty frequently. So
Yeah.
what you been up to, Steve?
I've been, well, this past week, I think you got me sick because this past week I spent a few extra days at home. So, um, yeah, we're community college I work at, semester starts tomorrow. And so last week was when all the faculty came back. So it was kind of a busy work week, but I got a few things done around here. I launched a video yesterday on nice pen marker, pencil caddy that
Yeah, I see you
I
went for
made.
the different build than what I did. I was wondering if you were gonna like do the same design, but
Yeah, no,
yeah,
wanted something a little more flat. So yeah, ended up with this, and it's working well. I even have here. I'll turn it this way so I don't drop them all. There's some pencils, X-Acto blade and everything in
cool.
there. So multiple things fit, and you could make something taller. I had a few people already comment that they were gonna, modify some shelves for some other things as well. So, and I love seeing that. Love, you know, taking my ideas and make them your own. So that's always great to get that feedback and see how people um, take your idea and run with it. So that's yeah. That as far as productivity, it was that I've been still trying noodling on the larger enclosure, trying to figure out the features I want to build into that as well as where I'm going to put it because I'm also running into the P2 is a bigger machine, so it kind of takes up a bench. This one's going to take up a good 4 feet by 3 feet or so as well, and so I'm trying to figure out what can go where because I still want to have room, like my assembly table to be able to play with things, experiment with things. But as you know, with your big table, you start adding these things, and it starts becoming a bit of a maze in the workshop. So, but
Yes, I had to do some. I had to kick my brand new. I had a brand new fold out ladder, scalpel thing that I had. I've had to put it out in the lean to because it's taking up too much space. I've had to move a few more things out into the lean to. But yeah, space is at a premium here. Y'all can see like, okay, this is like the back corner is about right there, and of course the front corner is right there, and y'all see how busy it is in here. I mean, it is very very busy. uh and a couple folks has been commenting, yep guys, I'm feeding it high protein food, and the CNC should get bigger and grow. But for right now, that is my current situation on the CNC table. I did move my all my relays for the dust collection and everything over there. I moved my other dust collector over on top of the one that runs the saws. And the reason I've got two of them, guys, is one of them is for my planers and stuff like that, and it blows out through a pipe to the outside, and then once it fills up out there, I can take the tractor and scoop it up and haul it off. The other one is for the CNC, and the reason it doesn't blow outside is because I don't want to be pumping all my air conditioning outside. So I use the bag on the one for the CNC. But I've got all my relays, I got everything wired, I got a power outlet on the table, and there will be a bigger CNC there next week. But then after that, uh, there will be a really big one. That table will be full by the time I am done. By March, that table is going to be full. I'll put it to you that way. I don't know exactly when, but by March, that table, I will only have an inch and a half extra each direction. Because that's a
Well,
64, I think a 63 or 64 is what I wound up making it. Because when I added that extra band, it added 3 inches because I did a double band around the top. So it's like 63 or 64 square, and it's sturdy. It's got 250-pound caster wheels on it, and it rolls like a dream.
now do you have locking casters on there, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
they're the red. Hang on, I can see if I can get you on there. But yeah, they're the red lockers. They got the real. It's like rubber, but it ain't rubber. I don't know how to. I don't know how to explain it. It's some kind of material. Well, where is my Safari at? There it is. Oh, but give me just a second, and I will see if I can show y'all. Now that I figured out I can do this. But yeah, give me a second to get online. But yeah, I'm gonna be feeding it well. Don't worry. Oh, it will grow. Tuesday, I think it is the 6050 is supposed to be here. So so Tuesday will be definitely will be getting an upgrade, but that's not gonna be my it's not gonna be my final upgrade.
very nice. Well, while you're looking for that, I'm gonna go ahead and throw a question up here. Verl's asking, and good evening from North Dakota. I hope you're staying warm up there. I know it's gotten kind of colder here in southern Minnesota. We just got a dusting of snow, but it's not. It's winter temps without the snow right now. But he received his MK230 watt, waiting for side exhaust. Question was about should he engrave with 10 watt? Ow! I think you got to mute that one.
Yep.
Should he engrave with 10 watt and cut with 30 watt? So, I mean, that is definitely the option that's out there. But what I would say is it's going to depend on what you're engraving. If you're just doing vector like letters and such, and they're kind of solids, that's one constant color. I don't know that it's going to be worth dropping down to a 10 watt. Where you're going to gain a lot in the 10 watt is when you're doing more like photorealistic engravings that need that uh, definition and detail between different pixels as such. That's where you might see a benefit to the smaller spot size and such. But definitely worth running a couple tests on some typical things. You might not notice enough difference between your 30 and your 10 watt that you can run it in one job. Just adjust your settings and be okay with that. I've noticed that on a couple of mine that have the switchable power ratings that you get a finer line on it and you can get some better photographic details, but uh, generally it's not necessarily worth the hassle of having a second job to run and have to switch that because it's a physical switch. You got to have to like stop the job or let it complete the one job, flip the switch, and then start a new one. So we'll see in the future if they come up with you know controllers that allow you to actually adjust that um, mid job. That might make it more appealing to do that.
Yeah, I guess we're gonna have to wait until I can. I'm gonna do a video on the table. The camera, for some reason, it will not let me mute the audio on my phone. I don't understand that.
Hmm.
I can turn down the ringer, but but, yeah, it's not letting me. But yeah, the switch on mine, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't see me using it. The only time I could think I might would use it, like you said, is if you're going for really really fine detail. Like if I'm doing some like photo quality, I want it to be really fine. Then I probably would. But if it's just just a regular engrave, I'm not gonna fool with it. I mean, it's got plenty of resolution, even in its 30-watt configuration. I haven't had any problems with it. I've played around with the Switch, but the difference on most stuff is like barely even noticeable. It does a real good job on 30. So, but yeah, but
Um,
yeah, the was gonna try to do a video with it this weekend, and I've got some stuff, and I started doing some slate. I've been doing slate with a little cube over there too. I was
Hmm.
gonna try to do some slate stuff in there in the Lasermatic, as well as that's one of my mediums I'm using to test that sculpt fun over there. But I haven't got I got distracted with this you know big table build that I had to
Yeah.
do because I had to have somewhere to put this 6050. I had the 4040 over here, but the 6050 would break this little thing
Yeah.
I've got it sitting on. So the table was needed to be built, and hopefully, like I said, I'm one step closer to my 4 foot by 4 foot CNC as well. So looking forward to that.
So, Kane Acre Woodworks is asking if how well do I like SketchUp, and is there a big learning curve with it? So, I've been using SketchUp back since it was actually a Google product and it was free. Since then, they were done with it years ago. They sold it off, and now it does cost some money. And worse now, they've also split off their pro version from their kind of free web version, which the web version is great for doing some simple things. Like if you want to make a mock-up like if you wanted to mock up the table that Clack just built, you could do that. And a lot of woodworkers use it for that. But when you get into needing to do exports to DXF and actually working more with the digital files, that's where you end up needing that pro version. And it's kind of like the others. You pay for a subscription, or if you have an older license that you were able to get grandfathered in, you can use that and such. There are some cool plugins for it, and someone actually just recently came out with a laser plugin that allows you to kind of make the box joints, and you basically make your faces, and then you say, okay, I want it to be 1/4 inch, and I want box joints that are about this size and such, and it does a pretty decent job of modeling some of those things. But I would say in this day and age, with this kind of application of CNCs and lasers, I would really gear you more towards maybe Fusion 360. It's going to be a little more friendly to the things we're doing here. There's a bit of a learning curve to both of them, but it's not terrible. Back in the day, I had actually started a series on how to use SketchUp for modeling RC airplanes. I never actually finished that because I had a situation that kind of made me put it on pause for a few months, and then they changed files and such. But it's definitely a tool, but I think for us, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it as if you're brand new to 3D modeling. There are some better tools out there for our applications. So, um, but I'll continue to share some of it in some of my videos because a lot of the concepts are going to be similar to other development tools.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with SketchUp. I dove straight off into Fusion and forced myself to learn the basics of Fusion. I am by no means an expert, but I managed to build things. I'm probably building everything the hard way, but I managed to build things. So
Well, that's part of my problem is I used SketchUp for so many years that the shortcuts and the tools got kind of ingrained to me that every time I try to pick up a different tool, I kind of go, I'm going to jump back into SketchUp and get this done. So I really need to take the time to, force myself to sit through a project. Let's come up with a project. Let's run it through Fusion, and learn it that way. Because I think I'd be a lot happier with it.
yeah, I was gonna try to do a the egg thing that I made the other day. I had to do that in Fusion because in order to make those recesses, basically I had to create a STL file and
Yeah.
then bring it into VCarve as a 3D engrave and do it that way. And I was gonna do a video on that, and man, I was trying to do the video as I was trying to figure exactly out how to do it, and the video just it was terrible. So I plan to do more with that because people have asked me about creating in Fusion and bringing it into VCarve and stuff like that. So I plan to do more of that, but I got to get a little bit less clunky with it because I had several speed bumps the other day, and I finally just got aggravated with it.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
mean, but and I've been there too, but that's the way I learn. I got to push myself through
yeah.
it. And I'm not, I was kind of this way in college. I liked the labs, but they were never as good as if I had a real world, like I want to do this and that,
Yeah.
like, so at the end of it, I had the working thing that I wanted, not the end result of whatever the lab was. So, um, that's the way it works for me. But
Oh yeah, I learn best when I'm under pressure and trying to do a project. Oh
procrastinators unite.
yeah. Mark, I will say it doesn't get as cold here, and Steve will tell you that. Of course, here lately it's been about the same temperature as it is at his house. But
Yeah.
last year, up until this summer, I didn't have heat or air conditioning out here, and I've ran diodes now for almost 2 years out here in those environments. Never had any problems that were. I mean, I never had any problems. Period. So I know I didn't have any problems because of the temperature. But with that being said, too hot or too cold, when these things get real cold, sometimes they don't turn as easy as they should, or like the rubber wheels may be a little stiffer than they should be. So there are mechanical effects, but I would think heat would be, too hot. I think would be worse than too cold on a diode because electronics, they're going to generate their own heat. They're not going to get too cold because when it's powered up and it's running, it's going to generate a little bit of heat. That's why they all have fans on them. I don't know that you could over chill it, but condensation stuff like that could become an issue if it's too extremes. Like if you got you know really really cold outside, really really hot inside, that kind of thing. But what do you think,
Yeah.
Steve? I mean, I know it
I
gets colder up there where you're at, but I just have a hard time wrapping my head around how a diode and the way that it works. Temperature, I wouldn't think would be that big of a variable unless it was hot.
well, um, yeah. I mean, heat's definitely going to be an issue. But what I would be most concerned about is as you're using it, the temperature differential you're going to start to get. And so, that if you've got a perfectly clean cover lens and focus lens, that laser beam's going to go through it without problem. But once you get anything accumulating on that, it's going to start generating heat on that lens. And if there's any sort of moisture in the air, now it's going to be cold, get hot flashed. It could cause some problems, and that's kind of the issue too with CO2 lasers, is that you start getting condensation, especially when you've got the liquid cooled typical ones that you see in the lower end hobby grade and lower end industrial ones. You get into the air cooled RF tubes, and they probably have a little more flexibility, but you also have your mirrors and your lenses there. So uh, condensation is going to be your biggest enemy in both of them there. As the laser works, it's generating probably hot spots within that machine that other areas are really cold. So that's where you're going to, that temperature differential is where you're going to get into trouble for the most part. So,
Yeah, I would be more concerned about humidity than I would temperature when it comes to like you're talking about, because if you've got really really low humidity, you're not as likely to have condensation as you would be like down here in Alabama, Louisiana, places like that where it's really really and maybe up there where you're at near the lakes, but the humidity is going to be a big issue. Like you said, when you start getting to where you can the temperature difference can create
yeah.
condensation.
We have a
But
lot of humidity up here between the lakes in the summer and the snow in the winter. It's it's not a dry state.
Chris, I've got it mastered now in Fusion 360. So I've created myself some artificial eggs in Fusion 360. I can drop them into anything I want to and use them as a tool now, and just scoop out what's left. Uh, but do, 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 do.
Well, Norbert, thanks for that. I do try to drop in small bits of kind of tips and tricks, even in project videos or review videos. So, that even if you're just watching it for fun or and not necessarily looking into the subject or the item, that you come away from it. And I know David drops a lot there as well. So appreciate that you're getting the good out of it.
Yeah, and like I said, once I get through upgrading my shop and everything, hopefully I can get back to doing some more of them. I do have a couple of blanks over there for stuff that I've bought to do projects with, but priority goes to getting my shop usable and getting ready for my upgrades. Somebody's asking about the F1. You're gonna have to answer that one. I have no idea.
Um, so yeah, it's going to depend on the type of steel that's used in the blades. Some of them are going to have a stronger marking without any spray than others. Unfortunately, unless you have experience with the various grades and you know what it is on the knife blades, um, it's a little bit of a guessing game. Um, that's where, yeah, I like having some Surmark or Brilliance marking spray on hand to really just lock that in at a dark color if I know I need to have it. So um, it's yeah, it's anything with metal, both the color and also the stainless steel with the black marking. You'll notice some difference from different grades and different thicknesses. So unfortunately, if it's got to be black, I would go with the spray.
Yeah, Megan is asking, does anybody know about CNC machines? A little bit. And also, Jody is wanting to know if you keep the lenses on hand for the H or L36. Uh, I don't know about the L36. I know the V36 lenses are the same. Because that's what I use from you for my V36.
Yeah, no, I still have my Acer L36, and it has that same brass end cap as all the others, and I've run it in that one. I know someone else on Etsy was asking me today about the IKEA 24 watt, and again they're the same. So I like to try to test them when I can, make sure they fit, whatnot. And luckily between some friends and some of the machines that have been sent to me, I've been able to test most of them. So.
Yeah. ET, did you ever figure out it's got to be a setting? If your work area and your camera are basically mirroring or whatever, it's got to be a setting or something in the setup procedure. I have never had that happen with any machine, and I use a camera on every machine that's been through my shop, so that's 30 something lasers, and I've never had that happen. So it's got to be a setting or something going on uh, with the calibration. Uh,
No, I think we both clicked.
yeah.
um, so I've seen this happen when, um, and this actually happened. There was a piece of black. They called it acrylic when they sent it, but I'm pretty sure it was like polycarbonate or something else. And it wouldn't mark it, and if you ran it with a high enough laser, it would just kind of start bubbling up. So if you're running into that, you might want to double check and make sure that it is truly cast or at least extruded acrylic, and not something like polycarbonate, that's not going to have the same effect.
Yeah. TRM Laser Design says has plans to scratch build a F4 Phantom. Any suggestions on transfer and drawing plans so he can cut them out with his laser?
Well, if
DXF, if he's doing it in some kind of 3D software, it would be DXF would be the easiest, wouldn't it?
well, so I'm guessing he's in the situation that I'm in. I actually have a friend who has the plans for it's a Zeroli. I think it's the F4 Phantom, and they're hand drawn plans that are copied, and then you got to get those transferred into the computer. So, and they tend to be really big. We're talking sheets of paper that are usually like 3 feet by 4 or 5 feet.
Ooh.
So, if you can ask around, uh, it used to be Kinko's, now it's Office Max places have like a copy print shop in them, and some of them may have large format scanners that they may or may not copy them into PDFs for you, and that's a good way to get the base image into your computer. Otherwise, if you know a good architecture firm, they might have it. If not, you can try to do the photo thing, and you're going to have to take kind of different photos of the plans, because the further out you get, you're going to get some lens aberration and skewing. Um, Basically, try to get as clean of an image as you can, bring it into the software, and do your trace. I think, is it Inkscape that allows you to do the, instead of the outline, but the center line trace? that's the tricky part is once you get it into the software and run a trace on that image, a lot of times the lines come out as a dual lines because of the thickness of the markings. So unfortunately, I don't have a good recommendation on here's the quick way to get it done.
See, I was thinking it was a
But
digital file. I didn't realize he actually meant drawings.
yeah, no, I hear them
That's
because I've been
that's
there.
far more
Um,
complicated.
it's a little complicated because you're taking a physical plans and trying to get them digitized. So, and Brian said,
What?
yeah, Inkscape and Illustrator both do centerline trace. So I was just going for the free version there with Inkscape, but that can usually get you close enough. But then it's having to go back in and then double check them to make sure your spars, if they're 1/4 inch, that the boxes for your slots for your spars are 1/4 inch and such.
Yeah, that's gonna be a tough one.
It's a little bit of a work, and that's where I've had friends ask me that if hey, can you cut these parts out for me, and I'm like, it's going to be easier for you to hand cut them on a jigsaw or a scroll saw or a bandsaw than it is for me to take the time to draw them in. Now if 12 people want them, then maybe it's worth the time, but yeah, or you
Yeah,
just want to do it for a hobby, but
yeah, just a challenge. Send it to Steve and challenge him. Double dog dare him. Good evening, Jennifer, South Georgia neighbors. Uh, trying to go through these.
well, Brad's
Uh,
asking, are
yeah,
you going to do more with
yeah.
the Atom Stack X40 Max?
There are plans, and I've been doing some stuff with it, guys. But it's been running while I was tearing my shop apart. Uh, for those of you that don't know, I spent 2 days building that CNC table over there and rearranging my shop and moving all my CNC stuff over there. So, and yes, that's actually a 4040 CNC on that table. It's just a really big table. I mean, this thing's huge. Hang on. Check it out, Steve. This is a large table, guys. All right. So
Well, I mean,
it's huge. It is huge.
people don't know, but you're actually only like 3.5 feet tall, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Uh, we're not even gonna go there. I'm not even gonna open that can of worms with you. Uh, but yeah, it's 60. That's a 64-inch table with a Genmitsu 4040 sitting in the middle of it, which looks like a tick on a donkey's butt. But
So you've got more coming, but you've just been kind of distracted. You're
yes,
with
I've
the
got to get
yeah.
my. Like I said, I've had to rearrange the shop. So and I had to do the enclosure Zilla, redid enclosure Zilla, got that looking all cool, and my color's off. It looks red in there today. But got enclosure Zilla redone, and I've been running the machine, and so far I'm liking it. I do think I'm gonna have to adjust the belts before it's over with. Oh, I did. What was I making the other day? Oh, I was doing some little tiny holes in a little prototype that I was making, and the small, really really small holes aren't quite circular the way they need to be. So I've got to adjust the belts once I let it break in. I'm gonna run it a little while longer. It does fine as long as it's not really tiny circles. But I'm gonna adjust the belts a little bit once it's uh, broken in a little better. Because right now I
Uh,
still may have because you get the flat spots in shipping on the wheels,
yeah.
and I don't know if I've ran it enough to get all that out of it or not.
Well, you can always,
So
just bring it by, drop it by my place, and I'll do some work with
no,
it.
no, I'm good. I like it. I am loving
All
that
right.
machine. It's doing me a good job so far.
Well, that's good. I do like that form factor where it's wider. When you're doing bigger stuff, just makes it easier to work with. But um, yeah, it's a little concerning on some of those bigger machines whether they're going to stay true and square. Slinging all that around. But
Well, this one has no choice but to stay true and square because I did develop myself a jig kit for it, and basically all four legs are captured in that jig, which is screwed to the enclosure. So it's not going to sling itself out of square unless it
well,
bends
yeah,
some
but
metal.
it's more of my concern is the gantry when it's that wide. You know, you got to make sure that both
Yeah.
sides are moving together. So
Yeah, so far so good. I don't have any issues at this point. Like I said, I'm gonna do a tune up to it after I've ran it for a little while, just to see, because that's the only time I've noticed it is when I was doing a 2 millimeter hole. I was doing a 2 millimeter circle, and it had just a little bit out of sync. Not enough to keep the pieces from falling out, but enough that I could see it. And uh, I'm gonna run it for a little while longer and then go through it real good. You know, clean it, lubricate it, and adjust the belts, check the synchronizer, connecting rod, and all that. But so far, I
sure.
mean, I'm cutting boxes with it, and they're snapping together. So I'm good with that. You know.
Sure. So Chris, yeah, it depends on the software you develop it in. So when I draw it in SketchUp, it automatically removes overlapping lines unless the objects are grouped together as a component. Similar in Lightburn, if it's if your objects are kind of welded together into one line, it's not going to be able to remove those extra lines without going in and node edit. But if they're individual lines, you can overlap them and then just use the remove duplicate tool. So it depends on how it's developed. It might be easier or not, but you know, if you're doing a lot of items and you can combine those lines, it's going to save you in the long run some extra time. So
Hold on, Steve. I got to turn my heat up a little bit.
yeah, I mean, if you need some
Oh,
AC, I could see if I could point a fan south and blow some of this cold air your way.
no, I had to turn it down this today. I got in here and got to sweating, and so I had to turn it down a little bit, and I forgot to turn it back up once it got dark and started cooling off.
Yeah.
It's the struggle's real, Steve. Struggle's real. Uh, any kind of material that you store, wood wise, Verl, he's asking, is there a good way to store 3 millimeter wood to keep warping to a minimum? The biggest thing with material to keep it from warping is you don't want it to be wet and dry out too much, and you don't want it to be dry and get too wet. Anytime moisture changes inside wood, the molecules will expand and contract. And if they do so, and the wood, the molecules of the wood, especially some plywood, is not exactly the same, then it's going to push one way or the other against itself. And the best way to do it, of course, is to maintain the humidity wherever you store your wood. If that's not an option, then I would recommend you stack something on it, allow some airflow, and a small fan and a dehumidifier near where you have your wood will pay dividends. I have my kiln outside, which is when I saw stuff on the sawmill, I put it in the kiln. There's a dehumidifier in there, as well as four 200-watt heating elements that heat it up to about 150 something degrees, and I'll let the wood sit in there for 2 or 3 weeks, and till I pull the humidity down to where it's below 8% inside the wood. And once I do that, if I bring it into the shop, it's going to equivalate. Whatever, that's a word. It's gonna reach that balance of the wood always wants to be either as dry or as moist as the area around it. So if I bring it into the shop, like right now, I'm 30% humidity inside my shop. It's going to go to 30% eventually. So if you go to the big box store where they're running these big commercial HVAC units and they've got the humidity pulled down to like 15, 20%, and then when you bring it home, you have 50% humidity in your basement, it's going to absorb that moisture and it's gonna start warping the material. I stack mine. I don't weight it in here. I haven't had a problem with a whole lot of stuff warping since I've got the mini split. Before I got it and it stayed so humid in here, it was a little rough. But like I said, coming from a sawmill background, making your own wood, making your own furniture out of wood that you cut from a tree, those are things that you have to learn, and you have to invest in moisture meters to make sure, because you don't want to build a piece of furniture out of wood that is at 14 or 15% humidity and then take it in your house and it drop down to 9 or 10. because bad things are going to happen to it when it does that. Wood naturally is going to expand and contract with the humidity, but the less of a swing in humidity, the better off you'll be in the long run. That's why Steve's like drying all that wood back behind him back there. That's why he's had it
That's
so long.
that's part of it. You do want to acclimate it. Now a lot of this I've gotten from a place that kiln dries their stuff, but some of it is air dried, and that can that can take a while. Even if someone says it's been sitting out for a couple years, it doesn't mean it's dropped low enough, and then you also want it to acclimate too. So, um, Gillette was asking about EVA foam and thoughts on working with it. Well, I did do a video on cutting where I was testing some EVA foam. Now I was using, I think, 1/8 and 1/4 inch stuff with success. I have not tested anything much thicker than that, but most of the colors actually worked pretty well, and they they do cut nicely. You will get a little bit of residue on your honeycomb or whatever your surface is, and you might need to wipe the edges off just a little bit, but it's definitely doable. As long as you're sure it's EVA foam, there shouldn't really be hazardous at all, as far as fumes or anything as well. So a lot of people do like using that for making patterns, making templates, and also costume stuff. They do that as well. So if you want, search my channel for EVA foam, and you'll at least see some of the experiments and success I had with. I think it was a 10-watt diode that I was using it. I know I've cut it with my 60-watt for a long time. I used to sell these little wire keepers from it. So
Wire keepers out of foam?
yeah, they're little loops that you could glue into an airplane, and then you run like your servo wires and everything along them, so they don't rattle around and get cut, and just kind of keeps it cleaner.
Okay. Well, on what we were talking about a while ago, this really isn't going to be something you're going to want to have for, say, plywood, but this is the ticket if you're building furniture or doing stuff, especially that you have to do joinery on. And I've went through like 6 different types so far. I like this one the best. Because it has like a built-in flashlight and all kinds of cool stuff in case you're in a crawl space looking for a water leak. But you just have to stick it. And this is a piece of oak, so I'm not going to be able to force it into this material because it is dry. But we'll see if I can get it in there enough to read. Nope. This stuff's hard.
And of course,
as rock.
those styles are okay, but they're not going to tell you like the dead center of a 3-inch slab,
No, you have to.
But those are.
I can't even get it in here.
Those moisture meters, you're talking hundreds, if not $1,000 on up. So.
Okay. Okay. You're gonna take my word for it. I can't pick it up, hold enough pressure. But this piece of wood is at 7% right now. This is some oak that I've had in here for a long time, and I will tell you though, when you've worked with wood for a long time, you can get to where you can tell by the sound of it whether it's wet or whether it's not. And I wish I had a piece of freshly milled oak to show you the difference. It makes a different sound. Of course, you can tell it when you touch it too, because it instead of feeling moist, it's acclimated. But that wood's been in here for a long time. But yeah, when it came out of the kiln, it was at least 8%. Sometimes I mess up and I dry it out too much, and I have to let it sit in here and acclimate.
So Dennis has a question about your interchangeable jigs, and he's got a cheap 10-watt MechPow laser. Would love to make the jigs, and was wondering if they're available or able to use them on any type of laser.
Well, I have one it's actually the one that I'm using with the Atom Stack right now. But I've got to go through and make several more little brackets for it per se. But hopefully within the next week or so, I'll have that buttoned up and out there. It's basically going to be kind of a DIY kit for all those lasers that I don't have, basically. Now, and there's going to be some user input to put it together, but the end result will be exactly the same as what my kits do. And that's what well, wrong button. That's what I'm running in EnclosureZilla. I'm running that new kit that I'm designing, and it's actually different. It's kind of a mix and match. Pick the parts that you need for your application, put it together, and make it work. And it requires you to basically use the brackets to secure the legs of the machine, and by connecting it to a spoil board or your enclosure, tabletop, whatever. And then once you do that, there's a few steps that you take to mark the work area, so forth, so on, and then you put the interlocking piece in place with screws as well. And so it's a little bit more user input, labor intensive, I guess you could say, but it will be to where it will work on any machine under the sun. I've just got a couple more pieces that I've got to put together to cover some of the different leg configurations and so forth. But I got to get caught up before I can get that done. So,
So Sharon's asking about the resizing tabs and slots in Liper and wondering if they changed it. That there's no tab height on her version. It says tab height, but it's really width, not height. I know they talked about tweaking that, but I'll be honest, I haven't updated to what is it 1.4.5 now that just came out past week.
1.5.
I don't know.
Isn't it?
I don't think it's 1.5 yet.
Hang on. Hang on, I'll look.
They
I got mine pulled up. 1.4.05. That's where I got the 5.
They let's see here. Yeah, I know they talked about tweaking that a little bit, but I haven't seen the changes yet. So I don't know if you've played with that at all.
No, I don't ever. I say don't ever. I haven't used that function in a long time. So,
yeah, so I've got tab height, which would be where it's, if you've got a tab, it's going to pull it out from the object, and that's going to be kind of your height is what they're going for.
Yeah, the tab height is going to be the distance from the edge of the material, right? Yeah. I mean, that's what they're. I mean, it's kind of the word height, I guess, is a little misleading. I should say
right.
Tab length.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on. Yeah, I think it should be, but so yeah, I mean, it should be pulling it in or out from the material, basically to compensate for the thickness. It wouldn't necessarily widen the. Well, I suppose that the slot width is where you could try to get the width, but it's kind of a I like to call it a I think the tool's still in beta because I've tried messing around with it, and every time I do, it seems to get, unless it's a super basic design, it gets me like 85% of the way there. So, yeah. Sorry, can't help you much there on that one, Sharon. As far as any changes to it, but I saw there was a question about.
Okay, I think some of them are still having a discussion about the camera rotation, and I was going to show. Is it IT LT? Who was it that was having a problem with his camera? Anyway, there's a setting. Let me show y'all this setting. Maybe he's paying attention. So, that's Steve. Is it even going to let you see the screen? Yes. All right. So there's a button inside Lightburn down here that I don't know why it would be enabled, but if your captures, somebody, I think it was ET, was saying his captures are rotated. This button right here will rotate captures. So if that's turned on, it probably doesn't need to be. I've never had to use this, but it is in there. So I think it was ETLC or yeah. Check see if that's turned on because if it is, that could be causing your problem. So just thought I'd throw that out there because I knew there was a setting, but I wasn't sure where it's at. But it's in Lightburn itself. Ooh, what I got?
So,
Oh, you got to get back up top.
um, yeah, the the slot and tab resize tool. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. For me, that's where it's nice. I mean, I do a lot of my design outside of Lightburn, so I just go back to CAD and fix it. Especially like if you're using Fusion, you can do parametric modeling and just if you use that and say base this off of my thickness of 1/8 inch or 1/4 inch, then you can say, okay, now adjust this and it'll go in and adjust all your sizes for you. But that's advanced Fusion 360. so, um, so yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of those tools that I look quick to see if it'll work and then usually just jump back into my raw design and modify it there.
Yeah. I don't have any experience with the 40-watt upgrade for X Tool at all. Zero. So I don't know what to tell you. I know they did that. It seemed like a lot of people were happy with it, but I don't have any personal experience to draw from on that. I don't think you ever did either, did you?
No, I have not I've not been able to play with their 40-watt for the D1 series, so didn't have to go through that hassle.
All right, Chris. He said he missed the remove duplicate step. He does all his drawing in Lightburn. Is he talking about
Yeah, so
lines?
that was the question about when combining parts and on overlapping lines to cut down on it, and that's a good tool to use, especially if like if you download files randomly from places or get them from people. I run that anyway because sometimes
Yeah.
when they're playing around with stuff, they miss extra lines, and then all of a sudden you notice your lasers going over the same spot twice. It will do a good
Yeah.
job of trying to detect where there's duplicate lines, and then it'll just ignore them.
And Chris, if you're not familiar with where that is in Lightburn, uh, when you once you build a design or whatever, you're going to go down to your optimization settings, and where's it at? There it is. Remove overlapping lines, and you can set a distance here that will kind of basically that tells it what you consider overlapping. So you can go in and turn that on, turn that off if you're trying to optimize a file. You can go in if you're designing files and lay those lines on top of each other, and then when you put that in there, it's going to remove those lines by default. So it doesn't, like Steve said, it doesn't do two cuts. But I use that a lot when I'm throwing stuff out. I didn't in the early days, but now that I've gotten to where uh, I'm more comfortable with the tools and know where everything is, I make sure I turn that on if I can help it.
So Pat's asking, what size exhaust fan do we run?
I run a 6 right now, but I've got it choked down to a 4.
Yeah,
But it works. It's
I've
variable speed.
um, I've got a 6 inch that's for my CO2, and that originally came with a funky 6 inch that, I mean, it was this weird Chinese fan that I had to weight down because it would vibrate across the floor, and if I put it on the wall, the whole wall would shake. So I swapped out for a nice inline one. I started out with a 4 inch down in my basement work area, but I upgraded that one to a 6 inch as well. And if you're not, I mean, if you have like a straight shot of like 4 to 6 feet, a 4 inch fan or even some of the inline fans that are on some of these units will probably work fine. But beyond that, if you have any bends and if you're using a lot of that kind of flexible hosing that's got the ribs and that causes some extra turbulence, you might want to look at upgrading.
Uh, yeah, Johnny. I think we had that discussion. Johnny, when you're using a honeycomb, especially if you're running air assist, if you don't have a way for the gases and stuff once the material is punctured, you want to be able to push that gas away from the material through the bottom as fast as you can, get it away from there. If it sits on the back side of your material too long and accumulates back there, you're going to start getting some staining and that kind of thing going on on the underside of the material. And you can also, if you get it trapped in there good enough, you can actually start getting these little explosions from the wood gas igniting that comes out the bottom, to the point to where I have seen some machines to where the material actually jump and move over like 10 millimeters, because it's going off like little firecrackers going off in there. But if you're trying to space pretty much any honeycomb, and this is one of the reasons why I like metal, like steel honeycombs. All you really got to get yourself is just some magnets. Now these are real thin, but get some magnets, stick to the underside of the honeycomb here and there, and just leave those guys stuck to it. And that way, that's going to provide you. If you get a 1/4 inch thick magnet and put back there, that's going to give you a 1/4 inch air gap on the back side of your honeycomb to let those gases and stuff escape without getting stuck back there. And I do that to all my machines. Like all of my honeycombs have magnets underneath the bottom of them. You can get them, like I said, varying thicknesses. They don't have to be super strong. You just don't want them to fall off when you pick the honeycomb up and put it back down. But that allows for that gas and stuff to be blown through the material by the air assist and pushed as far from the material as it can as it cools. Because if it cools against the bottom of that material, you're going to get that yellowing. And a lot of times, if your honeycomb is really, like some of these machines they send with the honeycomb setup they want you to use. And if it's like really slammed together, you can actually a lot of times see the honeycomb design on the underside of the material where the yellow stain kind of like paints it on there. So that's how I go about it. Like I said, I use magnets, and just because they're easy to keep up with.
Yeah, I mean, depending on the surface you have it on too, you could get those little. They sell those little stick-on rubber feet. Just kind of line that, and then that might actually grip keep it in place a little bit more. But just I've even used just little thin strips of like 3/8, 1/4 inch 3/8 plywood to just provide that airflow gap. So
S Free 1965 is wanting to repeat something, but I don't know what they're
yeah,
wanting to
sorry.
repeat. So we're not ignoring you. If you let us know, we'll repeat it. I'm sure or you can watch replay.
So DJS 751 was commenting that he heard Atom Stack is coming out with a 70-watt diode. Heard it on Rich's live stream the other day, and I believe Atom Stack's been teasing on some of their social medias. They've got a 70-watt module or a machine coming out. Also heard that Algo Laser is testing a 60-watt. They're not sure if they're going to bring it out. They're one of those companies that tends to test their stuff a little bit more. They don't rush things out, so they're going to try to make sure that it's good to go before they release it. So yeah, we're starting to see those newer modules creeping up in power again. Kind of curious to see how big they're going to be and how they got to stack those diodes in and then get them combined. So at some point these modules are going to be a bit unwieldy, but it'll be interesting to see this year where they go.
Yeah. Alistair, the jig kit that I'm using for the Atom Stack is going to be my new DIY jig kit, which basically is going to hopefully fill in the blank for all of these variations of different machines that I don't have on hand to be able to test with the jig kits. And it's basically just going to be a bunch of little parts, and depending on how your machine is made, you'll select the appropriate parts as far as leg holders or whatnot, and cut just the pieces that you need for your application and kind of put it together. But it's not necessarily all going to be on one piece. So I'm going to have to do a video on it because it is going to be a little more complex than just cut it out and set your machine on it. But I think it'll fill in a gap with a lot of people who have different machines, like the MechPal, which looks a lot like an Atom Stack, but I can't swear that it is. So I don't want to sell somebody a kit that may or may not work properly. But the new one that I'm going to do will allow you to basically, no matter what the machine build is, it will work with it. And I did it for the X40 because, some folks might want the jig coming in from the top. Some folks might want it coming in from the ends. My application that I'm using mine for, I couldn't run it across the top because I have my stove cover jig back there. So that's got what got me thinking I could make it this way and make it a lot more flexible for everybody. And I think he said that what it was he missed was the overlapping lines. So I'm gonna get Lightburn back up, and we'll just walk through that once again. There, if you can, I can't see the screen, so. But all right, so when you're in Lightburn,
Oops.
and y'all overlook my little 130 millimeter work area, my 130 by 130. I've been playing with the cube a little bit today. So when you go to set everything up and you're making your design, right down here in the bottom right corner where it says optimization settings, you're going to want to make sure you turn on optimize cut path, and then you're going to want to go in the settings, and then you can tell it to remove overlapping lines and set the distance of the overlap. And what it'll do is when you put those overlapping lines in there, it will automatically remove them. Let me draw some overlapping lines here. Da, 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 da. Come here. So we're gonna make this shape overlap. Let me make sure I got her touching. Okay, I got it touching. All right, so with that turned off, if we go in here and we preview this, you can see here that it's going to be two lines right there. It gets a little, I guess you can see it's a little brighter. All right, so also if we go to the preview, you can see where this is going to take 22 seconds or whatever. All right, so if I go to optimization settings and I turn this on and I hit OK, now we'll go to preview. That line's not as dark, and we saved a couple of seconds. Not much because these aren't very big boxes, but we did save some time. It went to 20 seconds there, and if I turn to optimization settings, back off to remove overlapping lines, and we go back to preview, 22 seconds. And you can also see that obviously that line is much brighter, at least I can see it on my screen, than these other lines, because that is the overlap basically being indicated. And I don't know why that is turned off on mine, unless I did it showing somebody something. But once you get that turned on, now that line is faint, just like the other ones, and it saves you a couple of seconds. And like I said, those are just literally, 25 millimeter boxes, and I've got mine set to run like 10 millimeters by default. So 2 seconds is actually a pretty good bit of time. But if this was a real complex cut, it would save you a lot more time than that. So there's that. Woo! We got big view here. Come on, Steve. Up. Why are you on bottom? Quit it.
You
Quit
keep
it.
clicking. You got to stop that.
But yeah, it's a time saver on some things. Like I said, a lot of times if you're just doing little small stuff, overlapping lines isn't going to hurt you. But for the most part, you never really want to cut overlapping lines. And like I said, I don't know how mine got turned off, but it was.
I think the default is actually having it off. So if you did some sort of refresh or maybe an upgrade, it might have turned it off.
I was going to say the update may have got me.
But yeah, and then the other options is just going into the edit and delete duplicates.
Notes.
Does mostly the same. Sometimes you can get slightly different results out of each other. But
yeah, I mean,
like most good softwares, they've got multiple ways to do the same thing.
Yeah, but that's just kind of a fail safe in case you miss them on the design process. It will eliminate them before it actually goes to the laser. So that's kind of it's a good thing to have on, no doubt.
It is, especially like I say when importing other people's files. Not everybody takes as much time to clean them up. So
yeah. I have to Frozen, thinking about the X40. Aromatic air assist. Is that like an air freshener in the air assist? Is that aromatic? No, it's typo. Hey, I'm guilty of those. I just make words up sometimes too. So, yes, that's the one thing that I will say. The X40, the biggest upgrade that I've seen is it does have automatic air assist. Basically, what they have done is they've gave you they've wired in, and I haven't taken the controller apart because I really don't have a need to. I can just make adapters to do whatever I need to do with shop air. But basically, it has a little pigtail that comes out of the machine that has a little small relay that you plug the wire coming from the wall, the brick. You plug the wire into it, and it has a little short pigtail that comes out of that and goes into the air assist pump. And right now I'm running the factory pump with it, and I've kind of got it sitting in the bottom corner of my enclosure away from the airflow, trying to keep it clean. But yeah, it's actually doing a really good job using their factory air with the relay and everything. That was what got my V35 kicked out of the enclosure. That and the fact that it's a 48 watt versus a 36. So that was what pushed me over to give up that 30 millimeters of work area that I lost.
Yep.
Dennis, I use pretty much 1/4 inch plywood for everything unless it's something special. That's this stuff here. This is like 1/4 inch Luan. This is actually a scrap piece, but it doesn't really matter what material you use as long as you can cut it with your machine and it's not too thin to where it's going to break real easy. But yeah, Rolly did, like I said, that's one of the things that Rolly, y'all got me saying it now. The Lasermatic has that a lot of other lasers don't is one, you got plenty of area under the honeycomb to allow the air to leave. The only thing that I might have tweaked would have been to lower the fan closer to the honeycomb, if not maybe like, right there at the top of the honeycomb. They kind of centered it in the acrylic. I kind of wish they'd have lowered it down to where it was right at the honeycomb, if not below the honeycomb. That way it wouldn't have to pull that smoke back up to come out the back of the machine. But that's a minor little thing. If you've got plenty of airflow, it pulls it through there so fast. I don't think it's going to hurt anything, because not only do I use the fan that's on the Rolly, but when I'm running it, I pump it out through my 6-inch fan over here. So I've got another fan at the other end of the hose pulling it out as well.
Yeah, I always prefer a lower fan or air exhaust point. If not, completely under the honeycomb, you can get that downdraft action going. It definitely helps. That can even help hold down lighter weight material, if you're doing some fabric or paper and such. So
yeah, it could definitely keep it from flying up. But yeah, see, like mine, my air exhaust is down below that honeycomb, and there's a 1/2 inch gap between the honeycomb and that metal plate that sits on top of my lift. So that's just, to me, that's the way I like it.
yeah, on my smaller enclosure that I did a couple of years ago, that one has it kind of split. It's about as low as you can get it in there. You could probably get it a little bit lower, but on this bigger one, I'm definitely going to have it drawing from underneath.
Yeah. Somebody's asking me if I've got a video on my install of the router. No, I don't think I did a video on that. Actually, I should have probably done a video on it. The DW611, when I put it on there, I mean, it's not hard to put it on. Now, the way I've got mine set up requires a couple of relays and stuff. I guess I could try to knock out that video before I get my new machine in, because then I won't be playing with this one as much. But what you do have to have in order to have this thing to where when you put G-code in the controller and you launch a job, I've got mine set up to where the router automatically comes on and my dust collection automatically comes on. And the way I'm doing that is with a 12 volt relay that activates the router, and then once the router activates, I've got it plugged into a dust collection relay that activates the dust collection. So it's kind of like domino effect. And I will be my 6050 is supposed to be here Tuesday, I think it is. So I will be taking those same setups and putting them on the 6050, which is basically going to be the same process. So I may just combine that and just say, hey, this is the way you do it, and it works on the 3030. It works on the 4040. All of the machines that have a DC spindle from Genmitsu, it'll work with. Well, I don't know. The 6050 may have a 24-volt spindle. Does it? I may have to get a new relay.
I could check for you. Um,
Hmm.
This is one back from a little bit. Jeremy Jordan was asking, he's got VCarb Pro for the CNC and XCS for the S1. Is there any real reason to buy Lightburn with needing XCS for positioning and autofocusing?
I mean, Lightburn has a lot of design functionality that XCS doesn't. Still,
Yeah, but I bet he can get
but
most of that in
if you've
VCarb
got
Pro.
VCarve,
Yeah.
if you've got VCarve and you can export it as an SVG, then
Yeah,
not really.
as far as control and function, on X Tool's newer lasers, you're really hampering yourself by not using XCS most of the time. But when it comes to design, they are a lot better than some of the others, but they are still missing some functionality. That being said, like you mentioned, I mean, if you've got VCarb Pro, you've got most of the design tools that you need. You can export as SVG, AI, or DXF, all of which, XCS, you're going to want to export as SVG. That's going to transfer the best. So I would stick with that
Yeah.
until you really find something in Lightburn, or as Lightburn maybe picks up better functionality for them, you might like that because then it would be all in one. But if you're used to designing in VCarb Pro, I would just roll with that.
Yeah, I mean, no need to spend any extra money if you don't got to, I guess. Now, like I said, I enjoy Lightburn, but sometimes I make things in Lightburn and send them over to VCarve or Easel or whatever.
See, I hate
But
designing in Lightburn.
I actually enjoy it.
I'm too used to my CAD tools, so I do most of
Okay,
it in that.
I'm good.
But
You had me stressing for a minute there. My relay works from 3 to 32 volts DC, so I'm good. Yeah, somebody said that Shapeco calls it a bit runner, and yes, Shapeco does sell a specific, tool that they make, which is basically a DC relay that activates AC stuff. But this is a $12 relay that will basically, if you have a DC spindle on your CNC and you want to power a plug that you can plug it into to run your router, what I did was I bought a little short extension cord that was like 6 foot long, and basically just cut it in half and used it to basically wire in that relay into that extension cord. So when I plug my router into that extension cord lead that goes to the CNC, it's being fed through the relay, and it works real well for me. Now I did put it in a double gang box enclosure, or I may use a single gang, but anyway, I used an electrical enclosure to put it in to keep anybody from being able to touch it. But the one that Shapeco sells is basically the same principle. It's just it's already got its own little enclosure. It's built in a little box with a plug on it and all that good stuff. But I'm probably not going to go that route when I get the Shapeco. I'm probably going to go ahead and order a spindle kit for it and just run my because I've actually got, and I don't know if you can see it sitting right over there. I've actually got a brand new Makita sitting over there already, and I'm going to run it on the 6050 and then probably on the Shapeco for a little while. But I plan on ordering the spindle kit for it when I order it. I'm just gonna save up, and I'm gonna go big or go home, guys.
so Robert's asking about minimum wattage for a CO2 if you're looking to engrave and cut 1/4 inch clear acrylic, and recommendations on CO2s. So this is 1/4 inch acrylic, It was engraved and cut. This was on the 55 watt X12 P2. I've done similar on the Chinese 60 watt um, eBay laser that I've had for a number of years. So um, the X tool as a 55 watt and newer one has actually been impressing me as far as its performance over my older, larger CO2 60 watt. So I would be looking in that minimum 50 to 60 watt range for that. As far as a recommendation on that, it's really going to depend on the size working area you're looking for. Uh, if if you need something bigger than some of these benchtop ones, because what OhmTech has their Polar, Xtool has their P2. There's a few others that are kind of in that benchtop style. Glowforge, of course, that are all in slightly different
Thunder,
prices.
the Thunderbolt.
Well, that one's kind of in its own class because that's a RF
It's a
CO2,
RF.
which would be great. But most of those are limited to about 20 inches by 12-ish. So as long as that works, those are nice ones. They're a little more compact. But then you kind of from there you step up into these more floor model on casters. Lasers are going to take up a bit more space. Probably have less integrated to them, but you might be able to get them a little bit cheaper because some of these desktop ones they want a pretty penny for them. So
Yeah. Oh, by the way, supposedly I'm going to go tomorrow afternoon and set up a bolt in Lightburn and show my buddy how to work it because he's
well,
got the sign shop. It's supposed to be delivered tomorrow. So
fun for you.
there may be a thunder. There may be a bolt video here at the Clack Shack, but it'll be a on scene video because he's not going to bring it over here.
Well, one of the engineering programs at the school is getting a brand new. God, what is it? It's an Epilogue 80 to 100 watt laser, and our educational price is something like $36,000 to $40,000 on the thing. So I don't know if they're giving us a break, but yeah. So I'm hoping I get some time on that one when they bring it in, but I don't know. Uh, I don't think I can do any videoing with it because of employment kind of concerns, but maybe I'll take a couple pictures. Yeah, that doesn't count when you put it in there yourself.
You were just talking about your X Tool P2 and everything, so I was just I was just putting it in there. But yeah, what's up, Minnesota Maker? There's your neighbor up there. Yeah, the like I said, I do think that hopefully one of these days I might get me a new CO2. Currently, I'm still rocking the M40 Monport, which, it's a tinkerer's paradise. Let's put it that way. If you like tinkering, you'll love it.
Well, and
If you don't, you'll hate it.
it's the M40 is just a bit narrower than the P2 is, but it's got such a smaller working area and less power and everything about it. But the price is like a tenth of it. So
Yeah.
you get what you
Yeah.
pay for, I guess. Yeah, when I first started looking, I was originally looking at the K40s and then quickly jumped up to like the next step up. And then this was like the third jump. And then at that point, I was like, okay, it's getting expensive and it's going to get too big. But
Yeah. Brian, I used it, but I'm gonna be honest with you. If it had been the only laser I had, I probably would have used it more. I only used it for acrylic, and I've used it to cut acrylic ever since I've had it, and that's been my only, especially clear. Now, certain colors I can cut with the diodes, but a lot of time, even though I could cut it with the diodes, I would still use the M40 because it actually did a better job than the diodes. You could less passes, less melting and stuff like that. But so I mean, I guess because like I said, I did do a lot with acrylic, but I had to put a lot of work into it. I mean, I had to buy air assist nozzle to put on it. Then I had to put the air assist on it. I had to buy the regulator and everything for the air assist. Then I had to change out the the deck because it was not adjustable for anything past 3 millimeters. So I had to put a scissor lift in there with a 12-inch honeycomb. So by the time I got through doing all that, I had it where it was actually doing a really good job on acrylic. But that was all I used it for, because wood, 12-inch, 8 by 12 work area is just not something that I was willing to use when I had, 20 watt diode lasers sitting around that could do the same job and do a lot bigger work area. But yeah, they did send me the M40, but I spent, and then I bought the chiller. That was another $150. So I mean, it was a good experience. I learned a lot, because I did learn how to align lenses and how important lens alignment is and how to do it. I had to I replaced all the gauges on it too, because the gauges kept going out and they were all in metrics. So basically, I overhauled the machine. I added lights to it. I mean, I have tore that machine apart, put it back together like 3 times.
Well,
But it still works, and it works better now than it did when I got it, because I've put the air assist nozzle and all that in it. But it's just that 8 by 12 work area. I'm like you. If they'd have made it 16 by 15 or 16 by 16, or, I mean, anything but 8 by 12. 8 by 12, I mean, that's just small. Oh, that was my biggest complaint with that machine. So if anybody's close by and you would like to have a Monport 40 watt, hit me up, because it's probably fixing to leave here. I need the space. No shipping. I'm not shipping nothing. You're gonna have to come pick it up.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be needing a home here soon.
Yeah, with all the shop shuffling both you and I are doing, we're gonna have to have like a laser garage sales or something,
Hey, I've thought about it. I've thought
laser
about having a yard
adoption,
sale.
it's kind of like the a no-kill laser shelter. We'll adopt them out or something like that.
Yeah. The like I said, and it's not that bad when it's these small frame machines that you can hang on the wall, because you can just stick one of them on the wall and be done with it. But stuff like the M40 with a chiller, I mean, that thing takes up like the 3 by 3 spot by itself, so that you can open the lid, and then you got the chiller, which takes up about 2 foot by 1 foot. So it's taking up a lot of very valuable workspace.
Yeah.
And now that I've cleared that corner out, I gotta have some room. Look at that beast of a table right there, and that little bitty CNC. It makes that CNC look so small. It looked a lot bigger when it was sitting here.
Okay. But
Blew up our K40, no water. Yeah, that'll do it. If you run them without water in them, that doesn't do good things for the tubes. But I am thinking about keeping that little chiller / radiator in case I ever do go with a water cooled spindle for a CNC. That's the only thing. Because I mean, it seems like it'd make a good radiator for a CNC spindle, because it has an automatic power function and all that good stuff. So I think that would be I think that's worth keeping.
Yep. One thing we haven't mentioned tonight is our Laser Engravers community member map.
We've been busy.
In the links, at least on our YouTube descriptions, there should be a link to a form as well as the map, where it's completely voluntary. But if you want to drop your pin there, you can just fill out the form you can put your name, your screen name, your business name, whatever you want to be identified as, and then a general location. It doesn't need to be a specific address. It just needs to be something that Google Maps will recognize. And as soon as I run the refresh on it, your pin will appear on the map. And it's kind of cool to see where everybody's at, maybe people that are nearby and such, or, when Clack decides to have a big old gathering.
Well, they can find me. I'm easy enough to find. You just Google me.
No, I'm talking about, we got to find the central place to everyone, so we'll take all the pins and see what, it's going to end up being someplace in the middle of Nebraska or something. But, anyway,
you talking about the World Tour 2025?
Yeah. The links are down there if you want to go ahead and fill that out. That would it's always great seeing the extra pins show up there. So, as a matter of fact, I am going to bring up the form on my end so I can check for any new
Well,
additions
I'll
to
show
it.
y'all. This is what we got going, guys. And some of you guys surprised me with your locations. Of course, we got Chris and them hanging out over here, which we're starting to see a lot more folks over around Australia, which is surprising. But we want to fill this map up. So if you're in any of these blank states, feel free to drop a pin, because it doesn't. Well, actually, we do have one in Wyoming now. But we want to try to have all 50 states, and I know we have somebody from Nevada around Las Vegas. There's no way we don't have somebody in that area. Montana, I looks like no, we got one in Montana. But we want to try to fill in the map best we can. So Steve's done a good job of putting that thing out there. Of course, you can see Steve hiding up over there, and mine's a little buried, but then you got me down here in the southeast part of the country. So go fill that out. It's neat. We come up with the idea that uh, that would just it's awesome. And neither one of us have enough room in our shop to be putting up a board with pins in it. So this is kind of the digital high tech way of doing it that Steve's come up with. He used his inner nerddom.
Well, wasn't too difficult. I was hoping I could get it to automatically update, but that used to be a feature, but Google changed some things, so it was going to be
So now it's like a
more
weekly. It's like a weekly update now.
maybe daily. I usually have it. Uh, I usually am digging into my Google stuff every so often. I go, oh, and I look to see if there's any additional responses. Like I see there's been another 4 in the past couple minutes, so I can probably go ahead here
Yeah.
and
Yeah, the
see
link
if it'll.
should be if you're on YouTube, the link will be in the description on my video. It doesn't let me do that with Facebook. I apologize, or any of the other stuff. But I will drop the link here, and hopefully you guys can see it and click on it. That's the link to the form that you have to complete to put yourself on the map. And like I said, you don't have to put your home address. You could like use a landmark that's nearby. I mean, city hall, courthouse. We don't care. Nobody's trying to see exactly where you are. But if you want to put your house on there, feel free.
Mhm.
Uh, that's just like my little dot is the same as my Google profile and everything else. So. Da, da, da.
And so far, no one from Antarctica. So
Yeah, I don't think they have much of a population up there. Not a yearly population anyway. Oh, I commented and now my comments are broken.
you broke it. So, but anyway, just kind of a fun thing there. And then, of course, while you're browsing our descriptions, we've got the Facebook group, the Laser Graver in community as well. If you like to join that, as if you're part of Facebook, you can. We've got a lot of people in there sharing their projects, asking questions and such. We try to keep the riffraff out, the spams, the scams, and the sales pitches. If they're an active member and they want to try to sell something and they've posted and commented things before, we'll probably let that through. But we've had a number that come in and they're just trying to sell something, and those are usually scams anyway. So um, we do filter those out, but um, feel free to join that group as well. It's a good way to keep in touch with everybody here in the live streams as well as others. And Clack and I try to drop in there as often as we can to contribute and answer questions as well. So
It really didn't like that comment. It kicked me plumb out of the app.
yeah. So anyway, I think I
Oh,
saw another question on. Yeah. So Tim Hensley's asking, what's the best starting project for an S1 first time user? So, I mean, this could be true of most any laser, but with the S1, you definitely want to get used to both the autofocus pin operation as well as their positioning tool. So I would probably pick a few projects that would, um, you know, I always recommend start out with a material test. Xtool's good about giving you some recommendations of their materials, but you never know if yours is exactly what they have. So, um, use their material test array option and do both a cut and an engraving test on there. And after that, maybe practice with cutting out some simple keychains, and that'll get you used to playing around with some engraved fonts or photos, and then a shape or two, just to kind of dial that in. What are your thoughts?
Well, I was going to say you could go to the Clack Shack or Vintauri's Workshop Etsy shop and pick up a file, but but that's a little greedy of me. But no, just just make some basic shapes, like Steve said. Do a couple of speed. One of the first things you need to get accustomed to if you're just getting into it is run material tests on every material that you do. That and then save those guys. Like get you a shoebox or something to throw those in. That way you know this material, this is what the power settings need to be. That will save you lots of heartache down the road. And just because the machine can cut something at say 20 millimeters a second doesn't mean you're going to want to set all your files to 20. Maybe back it down to like 18 or 19 just to be on the safe side. Because trust me, there is nothing worse than sitting here letting a really intricate burn run for 45 minutes or so. And then when you pick it up, the tiniest little pieces are going to be stuck and it's going to wind up breaking them, or just you're going to have to sit there with an X-Acto knife for an hour trying to score everything. So you're going to want to tune those settings in, and that's the best way to learn. So but yeah, Brian said the riffraff's getting more frequent. Yes, and I don't know how they're getting in, because if they don't answer the questions, typically I deny them. But I try to give everybody a fair shake. And you see one of these that's in 600 and something groups, that's usually a sign. But I try to snap them out of there as fast as they get in. But they keep coming in there with those pallets of wood and those, send me your files, send me your logo, things like that. Keep getting into the group. Josu Briseno, man, I'll tell you, my pronunciation's terrible, so don't get offended by that. Uh, just bought the Atom Stack A10 Pro jig kit. It was 10 out of 10. Appreciate you. Thank you. Like I said, I've got a lot of those things out there now, and as soon as I get this new DIY kit, hopefully it'll include a lot of other people that I haven't been able to to help with the jig kit so far. Linda,
I need to.
good evening from
I need to.
Foley, Alabama. She's down there by where my wife likes to go shopping.
I need to go out there and buy one of your jig kits so I can give you a 4 out of 5 star rating.
Hey, keep your 4-star ratings over there. I get 5s. I don't get as many 4s as you do. The thing about it is people will be like, "Oh, this was the best file ever. It was great. Download. Customer service is awesome. 4 stars." Steve's like, "What the heck?"
Yeah.
To get to the map, hang on. I don't want to drop another. Can you drop the link to the map itself? Because if I do that, my machine hangs up again. I'm going to punch my screen. There should be a link in the description. Mike's
yeah.
watching on YouTube. Expand the description to the video, Mike, and there's a link
Yep.
down there on mine or Steve's, either one's, or Mark. Yeah, Mark's
Yeah,
on YouTube. So look at the description on the live, and there's links to the map and to the form in there.
Gotta click that more button, and it should be there. So
Yeah, because I know me and Steve both have gotten pretty good about putting those links in there.
So, Mike Schmidt's asking if my lens covers fit the S1. Now, have you taken?
Yes.
You
It's the same.
checked that, right? Yeah.
It's the same.
Okay.
Yeah, matter of fact, give me a
that's one of the
second.
most common parts. That's one of the most common parts on these diode lasers is that brass end cap. There's a few that are different. Orter and Sculpt Fun use a smaller style, but a lot of them are using just the exact same brass lens covers. So they do work a lot. There you go.
Yeah, these are the extra lenses that ship with my S1, and it looks to be the same. Now I don't know if it's the same diameter. Let me check before I lie to somebody here. Let me grab my tool here. Make sure they look the same. We'll see if they're the same size or not. Try not to touch this lens. 14.5 millimeters. Is that right?
Yeah. So the inner diameter is usually around 14, and my lenses are about 12 and a half, 13. Just gives you a little wiggle room getting in and out, and then I include some high temp O rings so that once you get that first one out, because it's usually glued in, and you got to soak them with some acetone for sometimes overnight, let them loosen up. But then I just give you a couple of O rings that fit. That'll tighten down, hold it in place, so you don't have to worry about the glue and a loose lens. So
Right. Yeah, because see these are these are brand new Atom Stack lenses here, and this is an X Tool lens, so they're the same. The hole in the lens itself, like the hole for the 40 watt, looks like it might be bigger as far as the brass. The outer diameter of the brass looks the same. See what I'm saying? Hang on, I'm trying not to get them mixed up. If you look real closely, it looks like the S1, the hole, the window, maybe a little bigger, but the lens itself appears to be the same size. So, and then I got like another, I think that's a longer. Oh, stand by.
yellow. Um, so someone was asking how you can order them. I'm actually going to drop these right into the videos instead of our tool because it does tend to break things on our side. But I'm dropping a link to my Etsy shop. That's the best way to order those. And let me run it over to Clax as well. Sorry for people that might be on Facebook. But they're if you just go to vintaurisworkshop.etsy.com, you'll get to my shop, and then there is I sell these cover lenses. You get 8 in a pack, and they drop in replacement for those. You just got to make sure that you've got that brass end cap that unscrews, and double check that its inner diameter is about 14 millimeters, and then it should fit. So appreciate anybody that's looking for those. I try to get them shipped out quickly for people because a lot of times people are down and they're wanting to get their laser running again. So
Sorry about that. Work.
it happens.
Yeah. If you see me answer it, it's usually something pretty good. But but yeah, the as far as the lenses go, I think they're going to be the same. Like I said, I haven't had to change mine out, but they look the same. At least the glass part will be.
Midnight Sun Woodworks asking what percent alcohol do you clean the lens with? I try to get as pure of alcohol as you can. Usually anything up in the 90s is pretty good. When you get down into that like 50%, you run the risk of the alcohol evaporating and leaving water spots. So I try to get as pure of alcohol and then try to pick up, either get those. So a lot of times the lasers come with them. They're the little lint-free cloths. You can also get special lint-free kind of Q-tips on Amazon as well to help. If you're cleaning like CO2 mirrors and such, you don't want to leave any lint, and on these lenses as well, you don't want to leave anything on there. So I usually dip those in there and clean them off. Or, if it's really bad, you can soak it overnight in that. But I always try to get as high as percent pure alcohol as you can, just so you don't get any water spots behind.
Yeah, it's like I said, I use regular rubbing alcohol, but it is definitely better to use the more alcohol you can use, the better. I'll just put it that way. But as far as cleaning my laser and then putting it back together and cranking it up right away, I try to avoid that just in case. Like you said, if it's 50% alcohol, that means the other 50% is going to be water. So you don't want to get that in there too much.
Nope, nope. I've seen that where some people have written to me that they've put my lenses in, they're cracking right away, and then I ask them like, well, are you using air assist and are you cleaning the lenses? And it comes out they're using like a foaming glass cleaner or something. Well, those two can leave a residue
Film.
film on it, and anything that laser is going to interact with is going to it's like coating your glass in black paint. It's going to interact with it and start etching the glass. So you want to make sure that it's as pure and clean as possible. So, and for
Yeah.
these cover lenses, they're consumable. They will wear out eventually. You'll have an accident, but it's there to protect your main lens.
Yeah, I kind of look at them as tires. You try to get as many miles as you can out of them, but you never know when you're going to hit the next big roofing tack or whatever. I mean, so I try to keep them on hand. That's why I've got like they're spread out everywhere. I think I ordered a pack from you here recently. Plus, I've ordered some like factory lenses. Oh my
Hmm.
goodness.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea to have, if you can order some of the extra brass end caps, just to have one or two on hand, just in case you got to swap them out. Sometimes those are glued in really hard, and you got to let them soak for a bit. Once you get them clean, and if you're using mine or some of the others, that they're not going to be glued in and fixed, they work a little bit better. But um, definitely, uh, definitely something to have on hand. Um, yeah, Mike, you can use acetone. I know a lot of people do, but I try to go with the least um, least aggressive whatever it is first. Um, just I mean, both for my own health and less of having to worry about PPE on certain things and absorbing into skin, as well as just environmentally. But yeah, when it's really bad, and they get etched like that, I've recommended people use acetone, soak it. Sometimes that will clean up a lens, allow them to use it yet if it hasn't really gotten etched.
Yeah, well, and I'm gonna be honest with you. As far as using anything too abrasive on those lenses, some of these lenses have a coating on them. I don't know how durable it is or how it reacts with chemicals, but I don't know that you'd want to go, you know, too crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, in my mind, these being consumables, I want them to be as inexpensive and as easy to replace. I mean, I know there's some out there that are made from mineral glass and they have special coatings, and the idea is that they'll last longer. But like you say, you clean them a couple times, that coating's gone, and I would rather just have something as pure and clear as possible. Use it
Yeah,
once it's done, swap it out. So,
yeah. Pat, if you're referring to the CNC, it's going to be kind of a phase. This coming up week, I should have the Genmitsu 6050 here, unless something happens to the FedEx truck. And I'm going to be upgrading from the 4040 Pro to the 6050. Then, after I see how bad tax season's going to be, I plan to order the Shapeco 5 Pro. And that's why I built this huge table over here, is because the Shapeco Pro or the Shapeco 5 Pro has a 60 by 60 footprint. So I built me a 63 or 64 by 64 table uh, to make sure that I have adequate room for it and don't need any more space. Plus, if I ever do decide I want to get a different CNC, I still got a little extra room to wiggle just in case. But that's probably going to be, I'd say probably closer to March before I push the button on that. I've got to see how bad tax time's going to be and how much I have to pay Uncle Sam this year because they like taking me to the cleaners come tax time. So
yep. Yeah, it's one thing that I remind people when they're getting into this and starting to do, some event shows and having that basically self-employment income. It's what it is. Um, Keep that in mind in your pricing structure, because you're gonna,
yeah,
you might lose 30% if you've got zero deductions and
I was fixing to
you
say, go
just
ahead
take
and take
straight tax.
30% of that and just
Yeah,
it's
just
gone.
set it aside, and yeah. And it needs to be part of your pricing structure. Otherwise, you're gonna think you're doing well, and then all of a sudden you get your bill from Uncle Sam, and you're kind of like, why am I doing this? So it does sometimes price you out of some things being worthwhile to do, but get
Yeah.
a feel for it. But always just keep that in mind. So,
Yeah, Brian,
Mark,
oh, go ahead.
go ahead. Oh, I was just say, Mark. No, like I mentioned, I keep mine basically as clear glass as I can. Try to keep them as cheap as I can, so that as a consumable, um, that there's nothing impeding the laser light passing through it, and that they're inexpensive to replace when things do happen. So there is just as clear of glass as I can get.
Yeah, I will say this. Adam Stack, which is probably the cheapest place to buy a factory replacement lens, they're $30 a pop. The ones that Klein ordered.
Hmm.
Because Klein came over here, he cracked a lens and didn't have any spares, so he come over here and basically borrowed some of the ones that I've got from you, and we fixed him. But he had already ordered them before he realized I had extras. So I wound up getting one or two of his ones that he bought from Adam Stack, and it's like I said, it's $30 a piece, or you can get a whole pack of how many you put in there? Like eight? Is it eight lenses?
Yeah, eight lenses.
That's what I said. Or you can get eight. You can get eight for a little less than $30. So
Yeah,
that's a lot different price. And all it takes, I don't care what the lens is made out of. If your air assist throws up a little bit of water, that's what you're going to get. That's what you're going to get right there. So
yeah,
it don't matter how good you try to manage everything. Just a little spit of water, and that thing will pop just like that. That was a brand new lens. Hadn't been in there 20 minutes, and I had water got in my airlines and didn't realize it, and that was the result. But Mike says on their industrial lasers they use acetone for cleaning lenses. So, I mean, I guess
yeah.
it's like I said, as long as there's not any coatings on there that need to, on any of these lenses or whatever, I guess you'd be fine. I was thinking the same thing, ET. I just didn't want to mention it. They talked bad enough about me already. It'd have to be some pretty strong stuff though, because that still has a lot of water in it.
Yep. So, well, we got about 20 minutes left. If people have questions, um, questions or comments, let us know. Otherwise, what else you got? I mean, you're done building the CNC table, but so you got the 6050 coming in this week, or is that going to consume your time, or you got some other things coming up?
Well, I got some stuff I got to do. I gotta throw a video together about my little buddy over here, my little backpack laser, which is, I mean, it isn't bad. You know what I mean? Was it the com marker sent me that little blue diode that's a
Hmm.
galvo.
Yeah.
Wasn't thrilled with it because it overburned everything. It didn't cut. I mean, I was not thrilled with it. But this is a 10-watt diode. It's just 130 by 130. It'll do everything that a 10-watt diode will do, as long as it's 130 by 130. So it's been a neat little machine. It's got filtration built into it. It's got air assist built into it. Well, I don't know that it's traditional air assist, but basically they've taken the fan and coned it to kind of make it an air assist. And it's a pretty neat little machine. So I've been playing with that guy. Uh, I got to get a little quick video of it done. And apparently the table makes a really good cat house. I don't know if y'all have noticed it or not, but there's been a lot of cat traffic over there tonight. But yes, I spent a lot of time. And guys, I think I made it look pretty sharp with my scrap wood corner brackets. I got a little carried away because I had so many pieces of 16-inch scrap. And so I cut them to like 13-inch pieces with 45s on both ends. And I just went crazy. But it has this like train trestle type look going. I think it's pretty cool. And I resisted the urge of painting it orange. So for now, it's just going to stay wood for a while, and then we'll figure out what goes on. What else needs to be added to it. I think it may get one more shelf down low, but that would be a job for another day. I don't know. I kind of like it having some room under it to where if I do have like something big, like a box, like you know how it is when you have all these boxes sitting around that you kind of want to hang on to for a little while. I thought that would be a good little temporary place to hang on to a box. But my luck, I'll have so many under there that anytime I want to move it, I'll have to go over there and take them out from under there. So I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. But it does have 250-pound per roller locking casters on it, so it glides. Like I was trying to cut a piece of plywood using it as a sawhorse when I was building it, and just that pressure of pushing the saw was rolling it, so I had to lock the wheels. But once you lock the wheels, though, she's there. I mean, it ain't moving. It is solid. So it's not going anywhere. I don't know exactly what the weight of it is, but I will tell you that is almost every part of 20 wall stud 2x4s. And let's see, it's one, two. I think it's two full sheets, almost three full sheets of 3/4 cabinet grade plywood. So it's not light at all. It is very heavy. But anyway, I am awaiting filling all that space right there. I can't wait to fill that in. That's gonna look good when I get that machine over there. Because you know the Shapeco has a light strip that runs all the way across the gantry, right up underneath the bottom. Oh, it's gonna look like Disco Inferno up in here.
Yeah. Well.
Somebody
Yeah.
was
Well,
asking about my shop. I do have plans, but it's gonna be after I retire. I don't have the money right now, and I'm having to. I have 2 years and 4 months worth of service with another department that when I left there didn't count toward my retirement, and I'm having to purchase those years back. And you don't realize how much money that cost you, but when you take the money that I would have paid in and you compile the interest over the period of 25 years, it turns out to be a pretty good bit of money. So I've been saving that up for the past couple of years, trying to get that done so that I can retire October of 2025. And the day I retire is when Clack Shack version 2 is going to start construction. But I can't do it right now because one, I don't have the time to devote to it, and two, if I'm going to build a new shop, I'm going to have to crank up how much stuff I turn out as far as products and stuff to be able to justify the expense. So until I get enough time, I can't do it because if I'm gonna build a building that's gonna cost me that kind of money, I gotta start cranking out more than just nights and weekends.
Well, you let me know when you're ready to break ground, and I'll come down and cheer you on. I'm good.
Well,
I'm good at supervising.
yeah, I'm gonna get somebody. I'm gonna hire somebody because this is too much for me to try to do it by myself. I'm gonna hire somebody to do the slab, get the building up, and get it to that point.
Hmm. Yeah,
And then I'll
I hired
probably
out.
do a lot of the inside stuff.
I hired out the concrete work for this shop, um, back when it was going to be a garage, and then I hired a family friend who's a good carpenter. But it was a solid week. Myself and a couple friends. We built everything up, did everything, and then I finished it over the course of a couple more months. But getting the structure and the sheathing and the roofing on was a good rush through a week.
Sharon, if you're talking about for fume extraction, if you got a 1 inch deep area that's 16 inches wide, then technically you're gonna have you kind of got to look at it as like cubic feet or square feet, I guess you could say. But if you got a 1 inch gap, 16 inches, then yeah, you can move a lot of air through that. So if you're trying to do fume extraction, whether you're using a fan or a small shop vac with all the filters taken out of it or whatever, you can move a lot of air through that. I would imagine 1 inch, if it's 16 inches wide, you're looking at you should be able to run a 4 inch, 6 inch fan or either a small shop vac, one of the little throwaway vacs that I use easily. Somebody said something about a jig. I missed that part.
Um, I think someone had asked about the thickness of the material.
1/4 inch Luan.
So,
You can use
but
any kind of wood you want, but I would go
oh,
with
here.
4 millimeters or thicker.
And then Scott's asking about instructions for the universal jig kit.
Well, I haven't released the universal one yet, but the interchangeable jig kits that I do for all the different machines, yes. If you just go to my channel and search the word jig, I got bukus of videos of me using them. And no matter whether it's an X tool, an Atom stack, or whatever, the principles are the same. It works the same as long as you're using light burn and you know you're using the kit. It works exactly the same. Yeah.
Uh, so
Go ahead.
Verl's asking, made my fireplace, just added extra blank top. People love it. Want to build them one? Can I legally sell it? And I need to go through and make sure I update them this in the description of mine. I have no problem with people taking the design and making them and selling them. What I don't want people to do is resell the design digital files as their own. That's where I would take issue. But no, as far as making the end product and selling them, that's why I put things out there like my slate tile caddy and things like that. A lot of people are engraving slate tiles, but you want to have something to offer with it. So I'm more than happy to see people doing that. So
Yeah, typically, like I said, with my build files, that's kind of what I expect people to do is buy the file and then sell the physical product. But like you said, don't I don't want people selling my files again. Don't be reselling them. But yeah, the physical product, that's kind of the whole idea. ET, I've actually looked at getting one, but that's not something I've got yet. But I do want to get me a couple of PTZs and put in here somewhere so that even during when I'm making videos, it's a lot easier than me having to grab a camera and position it and move it around. That's on my list of things I'd like to have, but we'll see when that happens.
Midnight Sun is asking, having trouble with leather material. Test burns through numbers on scales, but does not leave any marks in main field.
Hmm.
So yeah, you can adjust both the power and the speed settings, as well as you can adjust the power settings that it does for the numbers and the letters. So I know both Clack and I have videos on that kind of walk through setting those parameters. So that would be a good thing to reference. But when you go into Lightburn and you start the material test, you'll have it'll say your min and max power options, and then the number of cells
Squares.
as well. Of course, I'm getting. I just gotta make sure I'm not getting confused between that and XCS because they're slightly different. But
No, you
so yeah,
have.
you got your count. Um, well, I can just. Oh, you're gonna do it. All right.
Yeah, the thing to remember about these tests, and you can save these too. And if you notice, I've got a whole bunch of them saved.
Mm-hmm.
When you're creating one of these tests, these are how many squares you're going to have. 5 by 5 is going to give you 25 squares. These are your parameters. You can change these to any parameters that are inside the boxes. The reason you're saying that the text is burning through, but it's not doing anything on a material test, is you're going to have to edit over here. Make sure you have this set to align or fill, whichever you're trying to do. If you're going to run air assist, this is basically all the settings. This is the settings for that material. This is the text settings. You can set these settings for whatever you want to do the text with. And it sounds like to me the text settings are really, really slow and are making it through, but yet the parameters that you've set up in the material testing, which is going to be like the minimum here and the maximum there, those need to be adjusted on your test. And then you can always do the preview to see what the end result is going to look like. But just remember, this is your material settings for whatever material, and this is your text settings. Now, a lot of times you're not going to know what a good setting for your text is, so you just kind of find a happy medium with a score. A lot of times I'll use a score on there because it really doesn't matter. Because if you go too slow or you try to engrave, so I just use a score, which is a line. I keep using score because I XCS on me again. But but line seems to work pretty well, and it's a lot quicker than trying to do a fill and engrave those. But power and speed tests are your friend, no doubt. All right.
See.
Yeah, I'm not buying. I'm not buying no vacuum table, guys. I just created the greatest thing ever. So I took some scrap oak, and I have made these little guys, and they're hard as nails, and they work great. So I made me some little clamps for my spoil board, and I happen to know that I can also use these with some T-nuts with my Shapeco. So yeah, I like these guys because I have trimmed a couple of my metal ones, so I figured I'd make some out of wood. So I don't, if I do trim them, it's not going to hurt anything.
Now I had a vacuum table on two of my CNC routers, and they were very nice to have, but um, could also be a little fickle if you're doing a lot of cut through material. And so you'd have to keep that in mind as the more you cut through it, the more vacuum you're losing. So it's depending on your application, it can be really nice. But I still found myself taping down or screwing down material as well. So
Yeah, Brian, I've got to where now, if I set up, like if I'm using these or whatever, I've gotten pretty good about not putting them where they don't need to be once I design the file before I send it. But I've also figured out that you can go into each file. I can change the Z clearance as far as my movements and everything, so that if this
mhm.
sticks up, I can actually take my caliber and measure it. If this sticks up 5 millimeters, I can set it at 6 and miss it. If I'm using the super glue, painter's tape, or some woodworker's tape, then I don't have to worry about it. But the more I do this stuff, the better I'm getting at figuring out in the software when I'm building the file. Okay, this is something I need to consider. This is something, and I've a lot less mishaps lately than what I did in the early days. Like the first week I had the 4040, I nearly cut one of those little metal things half in two, because I didn't realize that where my X and Y was, it was going to go straight across the top of it, and it just cut the corner off of it with a freaking end mill, which was amazing that it cut through that metal, but it didn't do good things for the end mill either.
Mhm. Mike's asking, will you need an enclosure for the CNC, or can a shop vac keep up with the wood cuttings? Um, eh, you don't need an enclosure for a CNC, but you may enjoy having one for a couple reasons. It does help contain any of the errant chips and or dust if you got your settings wrong to the table itself. So it's going to keep your environment a little bit cleaner. Also, the noise, it'll cut down on that. If you're running, especially if you're running a shop vac for dust collection and you've got a router on there, those things start getting really noisy. And any way that you can kind of enclose it and baffle it out will help. But no, if you've got a good dust collection and good dust boot on there, it should be picking up the majority of the material.
Yeah, I don't use the shop vac anymore. I use the that Win. Uh, it's actually a sawdust extraction setup. It's a lot quieter than a shop vac, and with it choked down like I've got it choked down to that 3 inch line going to it. It acts like a shop vac once it gets to that boot. Like I can use it to actually vacuum up sawdust and stuff while I'm engraving or whatever.
Yeah. And Brian says an enclosure will help catch the bit when it breaks off and does not fly across the room. I've had that happen as well.
Yeah, I had never broke one until the other day. Klein was over here. We were doing some training. He's like, "Have you ever broke one of those bits?" I was like, "Nah, so far I hadn't." We broke two in the next hour. I was like, "You jinxed me." Uh, how do you control where the material test engraves? I had enough. If you look down at the bottom, there's an X and Y position. When you go in and you go to the material test, hang on. These little boxes right here, you got the Y center and the X center. Now you'll have to know the coordinates. Like you'll have to go like 160 to, I don't know why my grid's not showing, but you'll have to figure out exactly where you want it to be and set it that way. That's the
And you
center of the design right there.
and you can use the frame tool within that to have it
Yeah.
test. So I would adjust that, hit the frame, and then if it's within your material, then you're good to go. Right.
Yeah, I
Jump,
usually just chase the frame with the material.
jumping back to Mark's question that you flashed up there but didn't answer. This looking at Atom Stack, their 40-watt lasers really 5.5 to 6-watt laser times however many. So they're 70. Yeah, the any diode lasers, they're all those 5.5 to 6-watt output diodes, and then they use beam combining technology to make it be the combined wattage by focusing them all roughly in the same spot. They're not all going to the exact same spot. They kind of create a grid, and that's why when you get into the larger wattage lasers, they're overlapped some, but spreading out a little bit more. So, yeah, it's going to be the same thing. You're going to have 12 or so diodes stacked together with mirrors and collimating lens to bring them into kind of one focal point. So
Yeah, I think he's talking about the way they used to do it, where it was the basically the input wattage, not the laser output wattage. I think that maybe what he's talking about. Because like
oh
this,
yeah,
the X40 says it's a 210 watt. Is what it says if you look at the stats. Uh, but they used to, a lot of companies would put basically the consumed wattage as the wattage of the machine, and that was not. It was misleading.
yeah. No, yeah. So their new 70 watts should be an actual 70-watt output, but it is something to. I think most of the manufacturers have kind of gotten away from that. But you
See
still
right
see
here.
some. You'll still see
Yeah,
some. But
210 watt. See that can mislead you, but
mhm.
there's the but if you read in the description, it'll tell you right here, 24 to 48 watt. But yeah, that's what he's talking about. I think is where they reference the input wattage from the power supply, which
Yeah.
is it's a little goofy.
Anyway, just scrolling through. Any final questions or comments? We've been on here for a couple hours now. Just rolling up past David's bedtime.
Yeah, ET, my best bet when you're doing light burn, there's not any that I have found any way of adding specific text to that. I would like for them to add like a notes section to where you could add text to the power speed test. And if anybody from Lightburn watches this video, please do that. Add a notes box at the top or something so you could put, you know, whatever the machine is on there. But what I usually do is after I burn the speed and power test, I just go back and just burn text to it, and I set me a cut and cut that little square out with the text included in it together. So
Um, you can also save it as G code and then re-import it into your normal project and muck with that a lot. So if you get one that you're going to use multiple times, you might want to do that, and then instead of having to reload it here in your presets, you can just insert it and modify it. But anyway,
yeah, I tried that with XCS. It didn't import the G code very well.
so well, any final thoughts or questions or whatnot? Parting words.
Yep, it is that time. I was just trying to catch up on all the comments. Been having a hard time with that. I have a splinter. I gotta go get out too. Offset feel versus feel. I'm gonna be honest with you. Offset feel is one of those things that you kind of got to get in a situation where you won't offset feel because it does some weird burn lines, and you just play around with that. Try to do a design, do it with feel, and do it with offset feel, and that'll answer your question because offset feel does and flood feel too. They do some weird things with the burn lines. Uh, there's a time and place for it, I guess, but I rarely use either one of those two settings because I just don't like the way the burn lines look, and it'll make your laser. You'll think your laser's missing spots because the way it does it, it'll go back and go here, go there. But anyway, questions, comments, concerns, guys. We appreciate you. Like I said, this week I probably will be putting out some content, so don't be getting mad and add me to your spam filter when I start dropping videos. I do have some machines coming in. I'm really excited about I have evolved my CNC understanding. I've learned how to use VCarve. I've learned a lot of things that I had been struggling with. It took me kind of sitting down and taking some time to myself to learn those things. But I'm looking forward to expanding upon that. And I'm trying to add a little more CNC stuff to my options for people when they call me wanting things. I've had to turn down a lot of jobs of people wanting something that's, you know, 40 inches. And even though I can do a lot with the lasers, instead of trying to buy a laser that can do 60 inches, I decided if I can get a CNC and learn how to use it, I can do the same thing, just and add a little extra flair to it. So I'm trying to get into the CNCs. I will be getting a 48 by 48 inch CNC before March, I figure, and trying to incorporate that into some physical products that I can sell here locally, and step up my game a little bit when it comes to that. That way, I can be running the CNC, the lasers, all at the same time. And it's a natural evolution, guys. I've got 3D printers, lasers, CNC. I've just got to learn a lot. So as I learn, I'll try to bring you guys along and let you know what I've learned. I know some of you are kind of like me, just getting into the CNC thing. Some of you are just getting into the lasers. And there's a lot to learn, a lot of resources out there. But I will tell you this. Watch the videos, guys. That's how I learned how to do most anything. I think you could build a spaceship if you watched enough YouTube. Because you can learn so much just by watching videos. But
Yeah, there's a lot of
that's about all I got.
there's a lot of knowledge out there to consume, but also filter through it for get more than one opinion on stuff. But yeah, I actually have a couple new bits coming from Cadence Manufacturing. One's a new bowl and tray bit, so I'm going to be doing some stuff with that, probably having some content out on that, and I'm hoping to do a little more acrylic stuff. I want to get the P2 going on some acrylic, have some content on that as far as some ideas and fun projects as well. So, but as always, if you guys have ideas, things you would like to see, shoot them to us. It's always good for us to get extra ideas as well. I probably have some new equipment coming in as well. Just kind of waiting on some tracking stuff to figure out. But appreciate everyone over this past little bit with watching the videos. I know both of us have been seeing some nice streaks going, and we're trying to keep the good content flowing. So appreciate everybody watching the videos and commenting and liking and hanging out with us here on our Sunday Night Live. So with that, I'm done, and let you close us out.
Yes, sir. Well, y'all have a good one. If you hadn't already, guys, hit the thumbs up, like, follow, subscribe, all the stuff that's on my little billboard back here. Also, go check out the Laser Engraver community page if you're not a member already. And if you know folks, or if you see folks and bump into folks that are into this kind of stuff, send them our way. Like I said, we try to put useful information out there. And I hope that you guys continue to like it in 2024. I do plan to kind of step my game up a little bit. I've got the shack looking a little more organized, a little cleaner. Unfortunately, I'm going to be in this space for about another 20 months or so, at least. Probably longer than that, because I'm about to build it and it'll probably be at least 3 years in this space. So I do want to build me a retirement Clack Shack version 2, but that's going to take a while. But y'all have a good one. And if you need anything, feel free to message us. But remember, messaging works best on Facebook. So go like those Facebook pages, and you can send your messages, questions, comments, concerns, and all that good stuff through Facebook. But see y'all again next Sunday, if Lord willing.
We'll see ya.
Later.